Good morning and welcome to Wake Up with the Consciousness Cafe. My name is Lisa Ferrero, and this morning I am so excited to share one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever had the chance to meet, and a wonderful photographer who has photographed. It would probably be quicker for us to tell you who he has not photographed than all the people he has. Please welcome Carl Studna to the program this morning.
Oh,
Hi,
thank
Carl.
you, Lisa. Hi, it's so great to be with you.
Ah, my face is hurting already from smiling so
Mm.
much just to be in contact with you again after a while. I haven't seen you in person in a long time, but the connection is always so right there. And talking
Thank you.
about photography, and when did you know that your soul's calling, like the passion for you, was photographing things, people?
Well, I started learning photography in high school when I was 16. And before that, I don't think I even realized that I was an artist, that I my path would be one of an artist. And the moment I got exposed, pardon the pun,
Yeah, it
to
was
photography,
nice,
I love it when puns come out and
nice
you don't know they're
choice.
going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, the moment it hit me, I knew that it was something that I felt such a connection to, and I just got full passion and into it in high school, sharing it with people, being in the dark room, seeing the magic of everything that could happen, but more than anything, I think it was the more that I did it, because I was just completely immersed in high school and then college too, the more that I continued to see how special and sacred it was to be able to have this device and frame something and choose that to be something special that you want to share with people.
Mhm.
And and then it just continued to roll on from there. It was like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever get tired of this, of continuing to just have my life be focused on things that are special and sharing them.
Yeah, the way you talk about your art, you could feel it's just the passion in it. And Erika and I were privileged to have our very final photo shoot was with you. And the way you heard one of her words, she liked to use the word contage, you just bring so much spark and energy into it. It's like we can't wait to see what you're seeing because you just bring it out of us. And of all the people you've photographed, who was the one that maybe, did you ever have a person who was just really challenging to bring out the thing that you saw in them? How do you get it out? Like someone who was tough.
Mm. Well, it really wasn't so much any well-known person that I had that
Yeah.
hard an experience with. There was one woman when I was doing some corporate shoots for my wife, Cynthia, worked at a corporation in the 90s, and I went in and did back-to-back sessions with all these corporate people there. And this one woman, uh, it actually turned out to be more of a therapy session for
Wow.
her,
Yeah.
uh, because she started opening up with me about how basically abused that she felt growing up having a father as a photographer. And it was like torture for her to have her picture taken, but
Wow.
she had to. She was required to in this job.
Yeah.
So I was just listened to her and was able to be with her and really have compassion and and sort of tap into that hurt child, that very, very hurt uh, you know child that felt so um, just so sad and not heard and not honored.
Yeah.
So I just brought my full presence with her and gave her so much love and care and listened and honored, and then from there just allowed her to open up and affirmed who I really saw who she was. Just really kept affirming in a very kind and gentle way,
See, that's beautiful.
affirming who she was.
That's one of the gifts you can't teach people. This is why the art of, you see the light dancing, you see the shadows in the light dancing, and you see it not only in the things, but you see it in people. And because of that, like your art, just like developing it in the darkroom, you were able to develop that relationship and co-create a new experience for this woman, which is a beautiful transformation. So what you do, you like frame light
Mhm.
and show it to us.
When I finished that session with this woman, she
Yeah.
thanked me. She walked out and she was thanking me, letting me know that it really felt like there was a healing that was happening for her as a result of that. And it really felt like she was in a very powerful therapy session.
Yeah.
And there was probably really only one picture from all the ones I shot that in my eyes, like she was able to let go enough and just relax and just open up. But for her, I'm sure it was not just that one picture. It was the experience of allowing someone who was behind the camera to really see her and honor her.
Yeah.
And I'll go back again to a well-known person that was a similar kind of experience with Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. I photographed him in the late 80s, and he was still under the control of his therapist, manager,
Right.
Dr. Eugene Landy. And he was heavily medicated and like they found out later, very overly medicated. And I'm in the office. I mean, that's where we had to go. It was in Eugene Landy's office in the waiting room where I set up the shoot because Brian didn't really have the freedom to go places. Wow. So I'm in the middle of photographing him, and he, from time to time, just started zoning off, and he'd kind of go like that and be gone for 10, 15 seconds. And I'd wait, and then I'd come back and be directing him and photographing, and then he'd do the same thing again. So at the time, I didn't really know everything that was going on. I didn't really know it was from heavy medication. I didn't know, but I did know that it required just being with him where he was and being very loving and caring and compassionate. Yeah. So we finished the shoot, and he's starting to walk out, and he turns around just like this other woman I was saying, and he just looks at me so sweetly and sincerely, and just looks at me and just says, "Thank you." And I knew what he meant. I knew he meant thank you for seeing who I am, what my need was, being patient and being kind. So that incident, that interchange has just stayed in my heart for all these years.
Did you always have that gift of just really seeing people? You look in, and then you try to bring it out, and you just draw it out. It's like a magnet with you. It's impossible, first of all. I can't imagine anybody not finally. But it is, because it's subtle. It's not just like the presence you're holding right now. It's just this beautiful. Did you always know you had this gift, or when did you realize you really had the gift of bringing people out? This gentle invitation.
Thank you. It's a beautiful question. I don't think anyone's ever specifically asked me. It's beautiful. I think it just developed over time as a teenager.
Another pun. I didn't mean to. Sorry, Carl. I didn't have it.
Coming. Let's see how many photographic puns we can come up with. As a teenager, I think I was always sensitive. I just was always a sensitive kid. And then as a teenager, it became more of a self-awareness and then a greater awareness with others on how they're doing, how they feel. I could just start to, as I grew in my own journey of awakening and awareness, I think that continued to allow me to feel into and to see other people in a deeper way, and be able to see when people are needing to be assured it's just something that continued to grow is a deeper sensitivity to what people's needs are. And when you're photographing people, especially as a career, as my first book, Click, talks about, most people aren't comfortable in front of a camera because it brings up for them comparing themselves and never feeling like they look pretty enough or strong enough or together enough or whatever. So as I started going into focusing on portraits more in the 80s, it became very, very clear to me that people were needing to be provided a safe space and assurance and kindness and it felt natural. It felt natural that I could be in that role and assist people in that way.
It's beautiful. I see the transformation you invite. Like again, it's really gentle. It's beautiful, and it's captured, and everything you photograph has that element of light in it. I want to talk about your book. I remember sitting with you, Carl, was it 2008 or 2009, in your beautiful home? We were sitting in the living room, and you were telling me about the vision for this beautiful book. And it's your most recent book, if I'm correct. Tell us the title and share the vision and how it came out. It's a
Oh, thank you.
magnificent book.
Yeah, it's called Evolution of Loving, and the seed for it was birthed in 1993, I believe. The actual concept for it was birthed sitting in a hot tub with Kenny Loggins after just meeting him and him sharing with me about his deep love for his wife at the time, Julia. And he was saying, if I were a photographer, I would love to be able to take pictures and document, preserve. I don't like to use the word capture, so I just try and
I
avoid
love
it.
that.
To preserve what I'm seeing in her eyes when we're lovemaking, when we're making love. I thought, well, that's really beautiful. And so he said, well, what do you think about doing a book on that? And I went, it would be huge and it would be amazing. And so that's where the seed was birthed was from that concept with him. And then as a result of that, it grew into me desiring to have as many different kinds of couples as possible, as much diversity as possible, age, people, a lifetime together, new blossoming love, same-sex couples, different ethnicities. I just wanted as much diversity. And then it blossomed more into having people do interviews with people and have them tell their stories and how they work through challenging times together, the greatest gifts they could give and receive with each other. I mean, it really became, it unfolded into more of a book on relationship, on conscious partnership and relationship, even though, and then the pictures they're all sepia, very, very loving, intimate photographs of couples, either lovemaking or just being very, very close and intimate with each other.
Yeah.
And you talk about being in a space and setting a space for safety. I mean, that was the ultimate of being in the sacred space of people when they are being so loving and intimate with each other and honoring that and just providing a container where I could be there and be the loving eye that is just preserving the beauty and the absolute loving sacredness that I saw and felt with all these couples. Right. So it unfolded over time. It sat on a shelf for many years because publishers thought it was just, a lot of publishers loved it. I got the greatest rejection letters from all these great publishers, but they weren't ready, or they just didn't, they just didn't think there was a market for it enough. Yeah. So it sat for a long time, and then I finally picked it up again, like 7 years ago, and said, okay, I've got to finish this. If I'm on my deathbed and it's not done, it's going to be the biggest regret of my life. So I picked it up, did everything I needed to do to complete it, self-published, and it's much grander as far as what it could be, the possibility of what it could be, than what I could have imagined in the 90s. It just unfolded by me finishing it now, with all experience I've had in the relationship now I've been in for so long. And then Cynthia, my wife Cynthia, adding a part at the end where she helps to synthesize tools for people that you can use as couples for communication, for growing in intimacy, that some we took from some of the couples of what they shared and some from some of our own practices.
So beautiful. When you said it so eloquently, to preserve a moment. I know in quantum physics, we talk about just by the observer being in a space of observing, it changes the shift, it shifts the energy itself. I remember when video cameras first came onto the scene at every event you can imagine, especially weddings, if people would be a little more, but that's the ultimate. I think in that recognition is what I could say based on experiencing you and seeing what you get, what you've been able to preserve through the lens, is your energy doesn't push. It's as if, that's the highest compliment I think I could offer a photographer, a professional photographer, is your energy doesn't really push to, that conscious observer of life and chronicling these quintessential moments for people. What a gift. You're a treasure.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. And I think that's a good distinction, is that it's not pushing, it's just honoring and allowing what wants to come forth and to unfold and to blossom, in all that it can be, whether it is a person, whether it's a magnificent sunset, whether it's the light streaming through the leaves of aspen trees as the sun is starting to go down, and waiting, part of not pushing is waiting and allowing,
Yeah.
and waiting for that perfect moment to show itself, and knowing that perfect moment for the click. That's why I never get tired of this medium.
Mm-hmm.
I love films. I've shot some small in college, some small films and stuff, and video. I love that medium too, but I've always focused on the art of still photography because of what I just said, because I just so love the special nature of waiting and feeling into that moment, that essential, perfect moment.
Yeah.
And feeling it. And then it's just, and then there it is. And then I can look and go, yeah, that's the magic, is feeling into it, seeing it, and then being able to document it and then share that special moment, because it's not like any other.
Yeah. When you talk about that special moment, it makes me, what's happening for me, and probably some of our viewers too, is it's reminding me of the individuation of spirit. Like you can have a whole life, like a film, but each individual frame creates the film, just as each individual soul creates the life. And we're each special. Like we wait for that special thing, and boom, here we are.
Probably the person that I have photographed the most over decades, other than Cynthia, who's a well-known person, would be Kenny Loggins. I've just photographed him so many times. And that's been a treat, just watching, observing and watching the changes, lifestyle changes, choices, everything that he's gone through. Yeah, that's been really sweet. But what I thought you were going to ask, which I want to say as well, was one of the most playful shoots.
That was my next one. Yeah.
That I've been a part of, and that meant the most to me probably was of the fellow that's right over my shoulder here in the back on the wall, which is Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney.
2 days photographing him while he was filming. This was in the early 90s, filming the title song for his album, Off the Ground. And so he was at Skywalker Ranch in Northern California, and using industrial light and magic, and he's flying around. They have him on these cables, and he's flying, but it wasn't even so much what he was doing, it was how he was being. He just embodied lightheartedness and play and creativity. So given that the Beatles were one of the greatest influences on me growing up on so many different levels, their music, the life that I imagined who they were as these young adults, they were really the first, the strongest and most impressionable young adults for me, as far as creative, out of the box, continually growing, mind expanding. I mean, so many different levels of influence on me. So when I had the opportunity to be with him, because I took him aside at times and did portraits too, uh, he embodied what I hoped he would, which was he had already, like, the 60s, 70s, 80s, now into the 90s, all these decades of getting to a place where he could just really just rest in who he is and decide, I'm going to have a good time here. His whole family was with him except for his daughter Stella. All the rest were there. Linda was there. And yeah, and he just would be whistling with the crew, impromptu. He went and sang Blackbird with one of the crew members, because the crew member told him that in high school, in assembly, that he had played and sung Blackbird, so they just impromptu started doing it. So he was lighthearted, but the point I want to make is that was so impressionable on me was that he was able to be light, whistling, playing around, but he didn't miss a beat. He was aware of everything that was going on. So really professional, and really knew what he wanted, but was able to stay light and open and carefree. And I thought, oh yeah, that's how I want to be.
Yeah, what a gift. That's definitely something to shoot for, to, No, yeah, I did it again. I was like, I never talk like that. There's one thing that you would like to have an experience of photographing that you haven't experienced yet. Is there one thing that you?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I photographed the Dalai Lama. I photographed Paul. Seriously, I mean, after I photographed and spent time with and had an amazing connection with the Dalai Lama and with Paul McCartney and George Harrison. I mean, at that time, I really thought, okay, I could just hang it up now. I mean, not really, but I mean, but there was a part of me that felt that. Okay, this is, I don't think I've ever shared this. Probably the greatest vision or desire that I would hope for while I'm still around and in my career is that my message, which is largely talked about in Click, my message become more mainstream about being able for people to embrace having their picture taken as a way of honoring who they are, who we are, and the person taking the picture being awake enough and attuned enough to be able to go to that place of being more loving and caring with people when you're taking their picture. Beautiful. Because it's a way of honoring rather than going on automatic. I mean, billions of pictures are taken all the time, and most people just go on automatic because that's what we do. We're conditioned in a certain way, and people they pick up their phone or another camera and they just say whatever. It used to be cheese or smile or whatever, or say nothing, and just click the picture. So my greatest desire is that people, and me being at least a part of a conduit for this, is that people, if it's spread out in the world so that people start to recognize that when you pick up a camera or a phone and you take someone's picture, or you're on the other end, that you just use that as a really special time to honor yourself and open up and embrace the beauty and the presence and the light and the grace and the goodness and the oneness and the absolute perfection that you are.
Carl Studna, what a treasure. I've said it several times. Thank you so much for the treat and the blessing of being with us this morning. It's really been wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much. I love you, and I love the questions that you asked, and I feel like I just want to go out and sing in the trees right now.
Yeah, me too. I'll join you. I'll meet you there.
The top of the pine trees.
Yeah, I definitely will be there. I promise. We'll do this. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us this morning, or if you're watching this later on our YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. And once again, Carl Studna. And remember, wherever you are on the planet, you are loved. Peace and blessings.